Hi, my name is Gary and I'm from DiMuto. DiMuto is basically a trade solution company that we're trying to solve a problem that sort of been plaguing the industry for a while. Well, fundamentally, in a lot of the business that we do is trying to bring fruits from one country into Southeast Asia. And one of the biggest problems we have is that we don't know what was packed, or even if we do know what was packed, it was basically an information that was kept at the pack house. And then when it was received in the markets that we go in, for example, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, we actually then have issues on the ground. And this kind of communications have actually been going on for quite a while, and we don't really know which one is telling the truth. So the custody of truth became a big problem, and the burden of proof became a problem. So the solution that we actually came about with is actually to find a way to put all the information into a platform that's on the blockchain, and then so that the custody of truth is now on the blockchain, and now the burden of proof is no longer on one or the other. Blockchain technology is about, it really is quite a fancy Excel spreadsheet. And then I always like to share that analogy, right? It's like Shawn and I go for lunch, right? And Shawn keeps an Excel spreadsheet, who buys lunch. Gary himself keeps another Excel spreadsheet and says, I also say who buys lunch. Now Shawn calls up and says, Gary, we're gonna have lunch next week. And then according to Shawn's Excel spreadsheet, I'm buying lunch. No, I'm going to say, Shawn, Gary says, my Excel spreadsheet says, I'm buying lunch. You are buying lunch, right? So I think where the blockchain Excel spreadsheet in a distributed ledger, where that information now is kept, and this is allowing us, we know who bought lunch, and then nobody's going to be arguing about it.
Sure, it's a shared
Ledger, yeah, exactly that. The problems of the messy middle, which is the problem that we're trying to solve, it's really at the pack house level. What this system really does is to basically be able to take a picture, and then with the picture, we actually now be able to now see the image before the box is closed, and then we can actually track every single box. And by serializing it, we can now be able to then put the serialized box into a pallet, and then we go into a transport order, and it's now linked to your purchase order. And with that part of it, we are allowing to put the documentation part into one QR code, so that we all can have the shared information in itself. On the receiving side, if there is a problem, all they have to do is just scan the box, take a picture of it, and we could immediately match with it. Then on top of it, we could actually see the purchase order and the invoice and the packing list on top of it as well. It's really what the ag industry is really wanting to basically meet the consumer, and the consumer understands the kind of pain all the packers and all the farmers that has put into this to put all the good fruits onto their table. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that even on the level of communication is to actually have the fruit. When you scan it with your phone, you are able now to actually understand who is the one who did the work, see the details about the information, making sure that it's safe, and at the same time to be able to communicate, give us a 5-star rating, and so that actually make this world a little bit more connected and close the loop between the farmer and the consumer, to actually say, oh, how good this fruit is, or how bad this fruit is. At least we can have the feedback. The transparency that we talk about. And actually get some data into our industry. I think this industry has been working really hard to try to get the data into a platform, and I think this is where I hope DiMuto can actually help. Absolutely, Shawn. I mean, for us, I think what we are doing is trying to digitize the asset. I think one of the biggest problems is like we could have a platform and we say that we want to put all the information on a platform, but the biggest problem we have is how do you convert an analog orange or an avocado or a grape into a digital asset? And I think it all has to start with getting the hardware and the software and understanding the pain points to actually make all the little connections works. Yeah, so that's sort of like what we've been focusing on. I think one of the biggest pain points of different pack houses is the speed of how they pack. Right? So the solution that we have a digital app for those who are a bit more manual. We have this, which is what we call the digital light, where it literally is just pushing through a conveyor belt. And we have a fully automated system that basically captures the information as we go along. So depending on the speed of the pack house and the size of the pack house. So as we go into different countries, one of the most important things is that we are now GS1 compliant. So it gives you a standard. Then we're also able to connect to the IBM Food Trust, so that we're also able to do the food trust side of the game. So I think this is kind of the little things and the little problems that we were actually trying to solve by making sure that the solution covers a lot of the stuff. top of it, when we talk about the data, we want to make sure that we can also do the financing of it. For example, when you sell it into a market, one of the other problems you will face is to be seeing the collection. Do you collect the money on time? Right. So one of the things that we are doing is that making sure that this data is now being able to actually allow the financing of the buyers as well, so that when you sell your fruits, you are able to also get the kind of financing. Also, with the data, we can now use insurance to go on top of it. And then on top of the data, we can actually use artificial intelligence to ensure that we can have a grading score for the box. Right. So this is kind of like the little steps that we've actually added up with the data. Well, being in the Fresh Summit, it is our first time here, all right? It's to be able to actually show what we're doing about it and really connect. I think it's important to just be here so that we can actually meet and actually explain the logic of what we do in a very layman manner. And it's kind of simple to understand. And then Fresh Summit has been a great opportunity to connect. And it's really wonderful to meet the wonderful people here. And then especially to see some of the pack houses, the farmers, and then to actually show them what these little things that we're really doing to actually connect and make this world a little bit smaller. Yeah, I mean, we are also part of the members of the PMA. I mean, being part of the membership of PMA, it has also opened up a lot of doors. And I think this doors that we actually been open to, and seeing the people that we've seen from not just in America, but of course Canada and in Latin America, I think that's kind of connections invaluable. And then in turn, we've also been able to get the people from PMA to over into Asia to actually show us the markets in itself, to do a walk around, and actually sort of like basically have a face-to-face, right? I think this PMA membership has actually been invaluable for us as well.